What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. Today we're going to be going over the top 10 most powerful commanders of 2024. So strap in, let's shout out those patrons, and let's get right into it. Irrelevant, you rock. Additionally guys, if you want a free $15, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. Helps out the channel, you get free money. Additionally, you can go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and I really appreciate it. Before we get into today's top 10, let's talk about today's video sponsors, Into the AM. They're having a massive 60% site-wide sale that can be up to 70% whenever you click the link in the description down below or the link in the pinned comment. They're responsible for those dope shirts you see me wear, and then additionally, I'm super comfortable pairing with this company because I'm a customer as well. They've also got a new winter line that is as flattering as ever. I mean, look at this. They've got new jackets to check out. This sale does end today, so hurry up, go get your product. Use that link in the description down below. Thank you Into the AM for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys, go show them some love. Before we talk about number 10, I feel like we have to address the elephant in the room. Nadu Winged Wisdom. Now this card was so powerful it got banned in multiple formats this year, including Commander. This guy couldn't even last a year without being banned, so that's pretty powerful. And that would put him at the very top of our list if, again, he wasn't already banned. So let's only talk about legal cards on this top 10 instead of, you know, including a card that's banned and is super obvious. If you guys did not get the joys of playing against this guy, I'll briefly explain what this deck was. You get Nadu on the battlefield, and then you want to play equipment that have a free equip cost, like Lightning Greaves or Shuko. This guy single-handedly brought Shuko, a bulk card, up to like $16 at one point. Kind of crazy. Now, from there, what you want to do is get a Skew Swarm on the battlefield. Super easy to do in Simic colors with all of those creature tutors. There's also a lot of tutors that just put Skew Swarm directly onto the battlefield, so this was an incredibly easy combo to pull off. And without the combo, Nadu's still giving you a ton of value because you're just playing creatures and equipping them twice per turn, getting free card advantage, and then additionally putting additional lands into play, which is where Skew Swarm comes into play. As long as you get those lands into play, you go ahead and equip all your Skew Swarms with these free equipment, and it kind of made a non-deterministic storm list that could draw your entire deck. And then they were reshuffling their deck with Endurance, doing some weird stuff and winning through a plethora of different ways. Once you draw your deck, you get to choose how you win, right? Easiest way, probably just slam that Thassa's Oracle. But again, we're not going to be talking about that guy today past this because he's banned in Commander, and good riddance, right? Kicking it off with number 10, we have that giant turtle with antlers and a big butt. The Pride of Hull Clade is a 2 power and 15 toughness creature that costs 11 mana. But that mana is going to get reduced drastically because for every single toughness we have on the battlefield, it reduces the total cost. So we're probably ever going to cast this guy for 1 green. And then once he's on the battlefield, we can pay 4 mana for his ability that allows us to give one of our creatures +1 attack and allows them to attack as though they didn't have Defender. Notably, he has Defender, now he can attack, and then whenever that creature connects, you're going to draw cards equal to that creature's toughness. Notably, again, our commander has 15 toughness, so this guy can draw you 15 cards out of nowhere. Doing that in a Simic deck, you get to basically choose how you build the deck, and additionally, how you want to win. The only thing you should be focused on is connecting with this guy, and then once you do connect with this guy, the win is going to be in your grasp, and the game is going to be yours to lose because you just drew 15 cards. Draw 15 cards in any deck, I guarantee you can find a winning line in your hand. Number 9 is going to give us a very unique commander with Rakdos the Muscle. This guy says whenever we sacrifice a creature, we get to exile the top X cards of target player's library, where X is the casting cost of that creature we sacrificed. Now, this guy's incredibly effective because 9 times out of 10, we're going to choose ourselves. So this is going to be insane card advantage, and then this is essentially a Rakdos Storm deck. Now, stand back, is it players, because now you're not the only one capable of taking 30-minute turns. This deck can cast your entire library with the right setup because we're going to be playing a lot of cards like Ingot Chewer. It's 5 CMC, but we're going to be using that evoke cost for 1 mana. So for 1 mana, we're looking at 5 cards from the top of our library. Then we go ahead and throw in stuff like Ashnod's Altar. Remember, we can use mana of any color here, so whenever whenever we're casting 1 CMC spells and then sacrificing them for 2 mana, we're getting a net positive. Throw in an Aether Flux Reservoir and we're going to be able to Death Star down our entire, or all of our opponents. Again, there's a plethora of cards in Rakdos that just allow you to sacrifice creatures to gain mana, and that's essentially what this deck is. We're sacrificing every single creature in our library, we're playing all the spells in our library that give us a net positive of mana like your Dark Rituals, and then just storming off killing our entire opponents. It turns out to be an incredibly effective strategy. Yes, you're probably playing Magic with yourself. Yes, people are going to hate playing against this deck, but it's super powerful, super effective, and a little bit different from a Rakdos commander. Moving on to number 8, we have one of my personal favorite commanders with the Gitrog Ravenous Ride. This is a 5 CMC commander with trample and haste. Haste is just going to add to the power of this card because you're going to get immediate value out of his saddle ability. This guy's also going to be a 6/5, so he's got some power, and he's got a decent sized booty as well. Additionally, whenever this guy attacks and deals combat damage, we get the option to sacrifice the saddled creature. When we do, we draw X cards and we can put X lands from our hand into play, where X is that creature's power. That's where the power of this card really lies, because there is a plethora of cards that have very low CMC and very high power. The thing is, a lot of them just have a downside attached to that, which we don't care about because, again, we're sacrificing them immediately. Our goal is not to attack with something like a Rotting Regisaur. Our goal is to go ahead and cast the Rotting Regisaur, and then we go ahead and next turn cast our commander. We only have to deal with that downside for 1 turn. Then we immediately sack him, draw 7 cards, put 7 lands into play, throw in your landfall effects, and you've got a very powerful commander in Gruul that can do incredible damage. We can go ahead and double up the power of all of our creatures with the Skullspore Nexus, and then the Skullspore Nexus is going to give us more fodder. We double up the power of the fodder, and we're just getting more card advantage, more lands into play. This guy snowballs out of control very quickly, and that's why he's going to be number 8 on our top 10 list. Moving on to number 7, we have more Simic BS with Zimone Mystery Unraveler. Like her, hate her, think she's a boring landfall commander, you can't deny this girl is powerful. All we have to do is set up the top card of our library, which blue is very good at doing. All we need is something like a Scroll Rack, even something like a Brainstorm, put an Omniscience on the top card of our library, play a fetch land, and out of nowhere, you're cheating a massive spell into play that allows you to play all of your spells for free. Now you're just casting Blightsteel Colossus for free and killing all of your opponents with Infect. Again, this commander did get some flack for just being another Simic landfall commander, but this might be one of the best Simic landfall commanders, and honestly, it's one of the more interesting ones we've gotten in a while. Like her, hate her, this girl's broken, and that's why she's number 7. Number 6 is going to have us dipping into the Naya colors with Baylen. This girl's incredibly powerful, only 3 CMC, and then abuses one of the most abusable things in Magic right now. Tokens, specifically treasure tokens. We can tap 2 tokens to add a mana to our mana pool, tap 3 tokens to go ahead and draw a card, or tap 4 tokens to put 3 1/1 counters on Baylen. This makes her massive incredibly quickly and allows us to use some power matter cards as well, such as your Rishkar's expertise, so we're getting insane card advantage. Throw in a Seedborn Muse to untap all of our permanents, and then we're getting a ton of value. We're drawing a lot of cards, we're adding mana to our mana pool, and then additionally we can just make Baylen massive. What again makes this super powerful is the synergies with treasure tokens. We all know whenever a commander just has some accidental synergy with one of the most broken things in the game right now, treasure tokens, it's just going to be incredibly powerful. This girl is seeing some cEDH play because, again, if you're able to generate infinite tokens, you can draw your deck and have infinite mana. And then again, in Naya colors, or sorry, Selesnya specifically, there's no shortage of ways to generate infinite tokens. Number 5 might be a little bit of a controversial pick, but I'm going to put Voja above Baylen here. Now, Voja is absolutely pub stomping those casual tables, and I do think he has legs in cEDH as well. This is a 5 CMC commander with Ward 3, so this guy's really hard to get rid of, especially in the early game if you turbo him out, which is the number 1 goal for this deck. Turbo Voja out as soon as possible, and then he has this really weird ability with a lot of words. Whenever he attacks, you're going to put a 1/1 counter on every single creature equal to the amount of elves you control, and then you're going to draw cards equal to the amount of wolves you control, right? Really cool wolf tribal commander, right? Wrong. This is an elf ball commander where people just shove in mirror entity and maskwood nexus to turn all of their elves into wolves. Now you're drawing cards equal to the amount of elves you control, and then additionally making your board massive. Shove in Shalai and Halar, and now you're dealing a ton of damage to all of your opponents as well. Again, the goal with this guy in casual: elf ball to the max, stomp the table, get your mirror entity out, and then in cEDH, turbo this guy out before they're able to pay them for that ward ability, and then you're very easily able to slam something like a Magus of the Moon, and they're not able to get rid of this guy at all because all of their mana is null and void. They do have artifacts, but throw in that collector oof effect, and that's going to be a problem for them as well. That's why this guy's going to see or be so high on this list. I speak highly of this guy because I've seen a lot of success with this guy in cEDH and casual. At number 4, we have the Master of Keys. Now, this guy's pretty powerful. He's an Esper creature with an X casting cost, but notably, you can spend 0 on that because this guy does have 3 power and 3 toughness. Now, you do get benefit for pumping mana into X, though. We get to mill double X's cards, and then additionally, we get to put a 1/1 counter on him equal to X. He has flying and then a busted ability that gives all of the enchantments in our graveyard escape, where the escape cost is equal to the mana value plus exile 3 cards. So, the mill ability becomes very important. Now, the power in this guy, one, lies in the fact that he incentivizes you to play very powerful cards like your Rhystic Studies, your Mystic Remoras, and your Smothering Tice. The best way to counter those cards is to get rid of them, right? Well, good luck getting rid of them whenever we can just recast them from our graveyard. Not to mention, Black has a plethora of cards to put exactly what you want into the graveyard, and this guy is an infinite mana outlet. What that means is we can go ahead and pump infinite mana into his X ability, mill our entire deck, and then win in several different ways. Thassa's Oracle, yep, you guessed it. So that's just going to add to the power of this guy. There's a lot of wacky things you can do. You don't necessarily have to go the combo route, but since you can go to combo route, we have to look at the top end of this deck, and I think the top end of this deck is extremely powerful. Moving on to number 3, we're going to end up with a commander that I think is going to get the Corville treatment. Too broken for casual, no matter how you build her, and that's going to be Storm. She's a 4 CMC creature in Teamer colors, flying, vigilance, and then has this little ability that gives your next instant and sorcery spell Storm whenever she deals combat damage. Now, the only obstacle here is her dealing combat damage, and then make no mistake, you're probably going to win the game. And dealing combat damage is not going to be too hard of an obstacle to get through when you're in Teamer colors. You have haste with red, you have a lot of protection spells with green that just give your creatures hexproof and indestructible, and then additionally, you're just in blue, so you get straight up counter magic. Now, whenever we're talking about this commander from a cEDH standpoint, which is mostly the stance I'm going to take on this because again, I think it's almost too powerful for casual, you'd have to put some very big restrictions on this list to play it in casual, and then you're still probably going to get hated off the table. But what you're going to do here is you're going to triple, quadruple up on all of your tutors, and you're going to want to play tutors that put things directly into play, like your Court of Callings, your tutors that put artifact or transmute artifacts, and then you can even play gamble effects. What's very powerful about gamble is if you get gamble count 3, you can tutor up your Underworld Breach, your LED, and your Brain Freeze. 3 cards, 3 of the most powerful cards, and one of the most powerful winning combos in cEDH right now, and then you just kind of have to pray that you don't discard Underworld Breach, and if you don't, you just flat win the game. Notably, you can resolve the tutors, before you hit the triggers, so if you do go ahead and accidentally discard your Underworld Breach, you can get something like a regrowth effect that allows you to get your Underworld Breach back. Very simple. Not to mention, she's going to be very powerful with extra turns. I don't have to say this, but getting 5 mana, not hard. And then once you have 5 mana, that opens the door for just casting a bunch of mana rocks, going to combat, connecting, and taking 3, 4, 5 extra turns. Not okay, not very casual, and I think it's going to be pretty broken overall. Moving on to number 2, we have one of my most favorite commanders of the entire year with Coram the Undertaker. And let me explain my take here, because I know people are already scratching their heads like, over Storm, Master of Keys, Voja, this guy doesn't fit. But again, let me explain my take. First, let's look at what Coram has to offer. He's a 4 CMC commander with 0 power and 5 toughness, but his power is going going to be equal to the greatest power among creatures and graveyards. Whenever he attacks, everybody mills a card, and then he has his quirky ability where once per turn, we're able to cast a spell that was put from a library into the graveyard this turn. So that does work for our opponents, so we're able to use our opponent's spells. It also allows us to play lands from our opponent's graveyards, so it does all that goodness. And I think a lot of the power from Coram comes from what people expect this deck to do versus what this deck actually does. It looks like a deck that's kind of battle cruiser-y, that just attacks with Coram, generates value, mills people a little bit, maybe you have to worry about commander damage, but in all reality, what this deck is you entomb Yargle and Multani, or a very strong creature, as fast as possible. Then you're casting your 4 CMC commander to instantly sacrifice it to something like a Greater Good or Ruthless Technomancer effect. This means as soon as turn 4, we're able to draw 18 plus cards or generate up to 18 plus mana. And then again, he has a really broken interaction with Ruthless Technomancer because his power in the graveyard is actually 0. So we can then sacrifice up to 4 treasure tokens to reanimate this guy that again is now 18 power, so we can sacrifice him again for more value. And there's no shortage of these effects in Jund. There's a ton of cards like Life's Legacy. Again, you're just 2 mana, sacrifice your commander, draw 18 cards. And that's just going to win you the game, right? Drawing 18 cards in a deck that can produce mana and draw cards this efficiently just gets you there. It kind of just results in a 10-minute turn that has you just showing over your win line of the deck. Players aren't ready for it. I've gotten message after message saying, hey, I've just had to take my Coram list apart because, again, it requires a silver bullet. Casual lists are not looking for graveyard hate. You can't just remove Coram and think the problem is gone. That is not the issue here. We're in Jund. We can reanimate him. We can get him back if he gets exiled. Anything short of graveyard hate, and you're just going to lose to this deck. And let's face it, casual tables are not playing the graveyard or graveyard hate required to hate out this deck and prevent it from winning. Moving on to the #1 most powerful commander of the year. Pause the video. Guess what do you guys think it is? It's Stella Lee wildcard. Now, when we're just talking about raw power and have to get that off the board as fast as possible or I am going to lose the game, Stella Lee is second to none, right? If this girl sticks and they untap with her, you know you're staring down that Cerulean Wisp combo as soon as next turn. There's up to 3-4 other cards that she combos with, so the odds that you're just going to lose the game if they untap is very high. How it works is you cast Cerulean Wisps, that's going to untap your Stella Lee, allowing you to copy another card, Cerulean Wisps. And then again, you can just untap, draw your entire deck, find your win con, and then win the game. Not hard to win the game when you have your entire deck in your hand, right? We've talked about that before. And Stella Lee is probably the most efficient commander at doing that this year. So that's why she's going to be #1 commander or #1 most powerful commander of the year this far. Again, guys, I've got a lot of these decks in the description down below. If any of these sound like a deck you want to build, go check it out. Got some lists down there. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let's shout out those patrons. Irrelevant, Chicken Salad, Creator, Excessum. You guys are amazing. I hope this helped everybody in their deck building endeavors, and I will see you guys in the next one.